Hey guys, it's Daniel again. I figured today I wanted to try and go over some, I guess, an opinion piece as to why I feel like the Porsche 992 Cup car in Rfactor 2 is the best version you can get in sim racing today. Now, granted, this is my opinion, but I just kind of wanted to go over why I feel that this is the case. Um, Figured I'd do some laps in a practice session and give you my thoughts as to why. Um, and hopefully you'll walk away from this video um, with more of an idea and maybe even some informative information as to why maybe you would want to pick up the car and start racing it too. Um, so to start with, the dynamic in R Factor 2 for the force feedback, suspension, and tires really comes through with this car. You can feel the tire wall flex. So whenever you're going around a corner, you can feel the tires at the limit. You can feel them kind of giving and giving a little bit of that sidewall flex. The nice part about that is it allows you to drive the car at the limit for whatever the setup may be at that given moment. So, of course, some of it's going to be dictated by the setup you put on the car itself, but it also gives really good feedback to this. Now, I've not noticed this sort of feeling in the multiple sims I've driven this car in, such as iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I've even tried a mod version for Assetto Corsa, the original game. And none of those come close to giving the sense and feedback that this version does. Now, this version also gives a lot of feedback through the suspension, so whenever you're on the brakes, you can feel that suspension load up, and it allows you to modulate your braking better. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it gives you that information to be able to try and modulate it. Also, coming out of the corners, if you get the back end loose, it's much easier to control because of all these dynamic portions within this game. Now, I'm not advocating for Rfactor 2. We all know that Rfactor 2 has its own problems and gripes that sim racers have with it. But overall, for the car, if you're a Porsche Cup car fan, that's what you like to drive, it's a phenomenal version. The audio from the engine note down to the suspension and dynamic of the tire is phenomenal. And now, it's hard to say why you should go out and get this because there's a lot of cost involved with Rfactor 2. But there's a lot of mod tracks that are really good. And particular versions of this car, such as with iRacing, is I think about $10 US, which is quite expensive for a lesser version of the car. With the Assetto Corsa mod that I have, that was done by United Racing Designs. That version is $4 for the US currency. And this car from the Rfactor 2 store on Steam is, I think it's $550, something like that, last I checked. And it's just so much more of a driving experience. These cars do not have ABS, they do not have traction control, which means you're actually driving the car instead of having all of these electronic assisting you in driving it. So it's much more dynamic racing. Now, LFM, the low fuel motorsports team, they have servers that run this car all the time. Now, granted, those seem to be hit or miss currently at this time because of the lack of drivers driving the car, I feel like it's poorly underrated as to just how good this car is, because so many people have had a bad experience with Rfactor in the past. Now, once you get past some of the setup gremlins for getting your Rfactor 2 running smoothly and your wheel configured and all of that, this game is phenomenal. But back to the car dynamics, like when I go over that rumble strip, I feel it through the wheel. Whenever I come in and I'm braking through here, I can feel the car loading up on that left front suspension. I can feel that tire sidewall starting to flex. Now, this may be some to do with the fact that I have direct drive wheel, and direct drive is definitely going to help for the feeling and drivability of some of these cars because of the speed at which it can respond to the feedback, and the self-aligning forces come through much quicker on one of these wheels. I've not tried a ton of direct drive wheels, so I don't have a huge opinion on them. I bought my direct drive back when Fanatec released the DD1s, and it's been a phenomenal wheel with a few gripes here and there. But ultimately, I would say it has a huge part to do with why I find this car so good. Now, coming into this corner, I'm still on the brake and I can feel the car pitching to the front. In some games, you don't have that feeling, such as Assetto Corsa Competizione. Assetto Corsa, unfortunately, that mod, I think, is just not good to be able to differentiate the way the car should respond. If you get on the gas and get the car out, you can feel the back tires flexing on that sidewall and the suspension squatting at the rear end. It's just so good. As you see there, we got a little bit loose, but we were able to hold it because there is that dynamic force feedback from this car and its tire model. I don't have enough good things to say about this car because it's just so good. It's one of those where if you want a pure driving experience, it offers it because it's a softer suspension setup than that of a traditional race car. It's not got all those electronic aids, so you get a more visceral experience when driving the car. And it's just so good. I just wish I could convey that. But audio-wise is phenomenal. The driving experience is great. And I would love to see this car, you know, get a little more love from the community. Especially to be able to get a few more drivers out there in the low-fuel motorsports community. Because this car is so underutilized. But when it comes down to it, the suspension geometry and the way it conveys what the car is doing over the course of a lap is just par none in my opinion. It conveys what the car is doing at almost all times. The brakes, while maybe not the easiest to control, are still really, really good. As you see, we're kind of fighting the car through these corners, but you feel all of that to be able to control it through those corners. And it's something you don't get in a lot of the sims, especially Assetto Corsa Competizione, which I'm sure is what a lot of people are probably going to try and compare it to. And ACC just doesn't have that feeling to be able to drive the car at that sort of manner at this current time. Now, I know they just released their 1.9 physics update, And while it made huge improvements for driving, it still leaves the Porsche Cup car showing where it falls short. And they just, I don't know if it's under utilized, so they didn't see the point in trying to work with that car more, but it just doesn't offer the same driving dynamic as this one does. But the way the car feels is phenomenal. And the way the tires feel, like I said, you can feel the car on the limit. You can drive it sideways in some cases. That guy just hit the wall. But the way it comes across these bumps, you can feel each and every one of those. And being able to drive it on the throttle out of the corner, assuming you don't exceed the slip angle of the tire model, is really good. And it's just fun. Like when you let off the throttle and you feel the whole car sliding, you can feel that tire wall give in the range that it's moving around. Like I said, I really don't have enough good things to say about this car, and for the money, you're not going to be able to beat this particular Cup car version. I hope this was informative. I hope that you walk away from this with a little more information as to why maybe you should give this one a opportunity and maybe pick it up. But love the car, love the experience it provides and the racing it provides. And yeah, you know, I hope that this helps you in your adventures and possibly trying to make a decision on if you should get the car. It gets 2 thumbs up. I'd give it more if I had more thumbs, but I give it 2 thumbs up for the raw driving experience. Anyways, if you liked it or you have any suggestions, you know, feel free to leave a comment or thumbs up and follow. I appreciate you guys, and you have a great day.